Hello, my friends. This is Andy coming to you live from Orange County, California. I took a deep breath so that I could give my opening, but it didn't. The camera didn't go, so I almost passed out holding my breath. Hey, Hetty, how are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Sorry, everything's about timing, and I had my timing thrown off there just by a little bit of a delay. So sorry about that. You know what I'm so happy about today is that this is one of my favorite times of. It happens twice a week, I think, right? You write an article every 2 weeks.
Yes.
But this is I love this day when your new article comes out. And so we'll be talking about that article in just a minute. And after we get done with the devotional, but it's another goodie. I can't wait to. I'm going to look at the comments. You are not allowed to look at the comments. And then Pastor Jack said something last night that I think you need to listen to, and I will share with everybody else, which I think, again, is important. It may not have nothing to do with the devotional, but has a lot to do with your article. All right. So go to livingfearlessdevotional.com. That'll take you to the Apple podcast, where you can find our podcast. And it would be great if you gave it 5 stars and let everybody know how great you think God is moving through this podcast. All right. So let's get rid of the frame. And oops, sorry, brought up the wrong one. There we go. I love what you're wearing today. You look so professional.
I wore a suit because we're doing a professional interview.
Yeah, we're doing all kinds of stuff today. Right, and we get to see each other again. Finally, it's been way too long. What was that?
Even though I'm just your camera woman.
Yeah. I need somebody to push play.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's get into the devotional. It is, again, My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. And we are in... that's a cool picture. It matches obviously correctly and directly to what it is we're going to be talking about for April 22nd. And it is entitled The Light That Never Fails, again, by Oswald Chambers. The reference is 2 Corinthians 3:18. We all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord. A servant of God must stand so very much alone that he never realizes he is alone. In the early stages of the Christian life, disappointments will come. People who used to be lights will flicker out, and those who used to stand with us will turn away. We have to get so used to it that we will not even realize we are standing alone, Paul said. No one stood with me, but all forsook me. But the Lord stood with me and strengthened me. We must build our faith, not on fading lights, but on the light that never fails. When important individuals, and important is in quotes, when important individuals go away, we are sad until we see that they are meant to go, so that only one thing is left for us to do, to look into the face of God for ourselves. Allow nothing to keep you from looking with strong determination into the face of God regarding yourself and your doctrine. And every time you preach, make sure you look God in the face about the message first. Then the glory will remain through all of it. A Christian servant is one who perpetually looks into the face of God and then goes forth to talk to others. The ministry of Christ is characterized by an abiding glory of which the servant is totally unaware. Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him. We are never called on to display our doubts openly or to express the hidden joys and delights of our life with God. The secret of the servant's life is that he stays in tune with God all the time. That reminds me of when you say God is good all the time. That last little part. Hey, Robert, nice seeing you. And Amy Phelps. Awesome. Wow. So the reason we were a couple of minutes late is because Hetty and I were having this conversation because, we like to sometimes we like to see if we hear anything the first time around. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And then I was thinking about the thing that hit me in the very beginning where it says, people who used to be lights will flicker out and those who used to stand with us will turn away. And that's kind of what I've experienced. And, I think that it's interesting because I was saying it was interesting to me because many of the people that used to text me all the time and kind of be around, whether it was over just like the mobile phone or every so often we may have dinner together, have completely gone silent. Like they just disappeared. And I know I'm a horrible friend. Number one, I'm not usually the one that reaches out. I'm usually the one that gets reached out to. So I'm horrible when it comes to that. But it's funny because for years they were reaching out. Like for you, I mean, this was just a pretty common thing because I never had to. So they would reach out and then we'd end up having dinner together. But suddenly they've gone silent, like they're non-existent. And then you had something to say about that. I just like, these are Christians that I went to church with every Sunday, and even we're sitting in Bible studies and was in men's groups together, and I just find it odd. But what were you saying?
Well, I think there's this kind of cult-like loyalty for churches, because I think it's important that people know that it's not the church you attend now. So it's not Pastor Jack's church, and everybody knows you talk a lot about going and how much you love going to Pastor Jack's church at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. So my experience, I've been to 2 other churches before Calvary, and I had a similar experience. It was like they just disappear because you're not part of the church community anymore. And so they basically, I don't know, I guess forget about you. I out of sight, out of mind. I don't know what it is, but there's a very insular kind of behavior that happens with churches, especially local churches that you attend in person. That I think that's why that happens.
Well, I reached out to another friend, and we'll probably end up having dinner together. And as a matter of fact, I've been working with one of the pastors. As a matter of fact, we've been promoting his book. So we're still part of the Christ community.
Right.
Do we have to go to the same building?
That's my point. The ones that are meant to be your friends will stay your friends. Like from my first church where I was baptized, 3 of the ladies there are like sisters to me. We've stayed very, very close, but everybody else disappeared. So I think similar to what Oswald is saying is that we keep our eyes on Jesus, and he'll open doors that he wants open. He'll shut doors he wants shut. And the most important is our relationship with him, and not to overly lament who comes and who goes. I've actually acquired, and of course, nobody on this broadcast, but I've acquired some friends that I don't necessarily, I would have chosen myself. You know what I mean? Like the Lord is choosing them. So I'm just like, oh, interesting. Okay, you're in my life now. And then some disappear. And I mean, actually, one of the most interesting to me was Bev, God rest her soul, is that, I mean, she really kind of, for me, of course, she's a longtime friend for you, but for me, she was entirely new. And it was so interesting to me that the Lord brought us close, and then, he called her home. So I don't know. I love thinking about what the Lord's trying to teach us in these experiences. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Oswald points out here that when important, and he quotes again, when important individuals go away, we are sad until we see that they were meant to go, so that only one thing is left for us to do, to look into the face of God ourselves. And I mean, does that really mean, I mean, are we not to, we're not to pursue those relationships that go away? We're not to go, hey, what happened? I mean, because I remember like in high school sometimes, or, other relationships, you'd go, hey, are you okay? Why did, how come we haven't talked in a while? Like there's a little bit of pursuit to think, did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? So when this happens, are we not, is everything in God's hands? Are we not to go and say, hey?
Well, that's why off camera I said to you, it's really important to talk to the Lord about it, because I have some that the Lord clearly said, okay, move on, keep walking. And, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, but I miss this person, and he's like, no, remove them for a reason. And so that's what I think Oswald means by look in the face of God. And so it's just, to me, looking at the face of God means to not only manifest, the Christ-like qualities, but to actually be in conversation with him. That's why he talks about Moses, because Moses's eyes shone bright. He was glowing because he had looked at the face of the Lord. But remember, Moses was also in communication with the Lord. Moses was the only prophet before Christ that was able to speak to God. So I think that's important. It's that relationship and that conversation that you can have.
Yeah, that's so in Exodus 34:29, the shining face of Moses. Now what in 29 says, now it was so when Moses came down from Mount Sinai, parentheses, and the two tablets of the testimony were in Moses' hand when he came down from the mountain, that Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone while he talked with them. And I'm glad you brought that up, and I was able to read that, is because sometimes I think, and I hope this is going to sound really bad, but some people, I think, sometimes like it when you're not happy, right? When you're not miserable, like there's, and it sounds really bad. I don't know how to say it, but there are people around that, like, I would rather see you hurting and not happy and dying slowly than see you take your pain and discomfort and your cancer and be okay with it. Like, I remember when I had COVID and I was saying, oh my gosh, such amazing things happened when I had COVID. And people are going, how can you say that? Like, they got really mad at me. And I go, because it did. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, they wanted me to be like, oh, now COVID is really bad and everybody, must stay in their house and must hide under their covers. And I didn't come out and I said, hey, sometimes bad things happen, but some really cool things can come of them.
Misery loves company, right?
Oh, yeah. Wow. So funny. and I hope that doesn't sound bad, because none of the major problems have suddenly disappeared. I still have cancer. I still have some effects in my lungs from the COVID. I still have, now I have 6 children. So it's not like any of those things went away. It's just that with God, there's no fear. The anxiety and the burdens are laid on him. And he presented me with you and said, here's a gift. and so, but it's not that all those things are still present. Right. Yeah. It's just,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we do it a little bit. We do it with the joy of the Lord. And so people think we have no problems. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many times we can tell people it's not that there's no problems. It's just that we are just overwhelmed by the joy and the love that the Lord's given us, that it makes it all manageable.
Yeah, that's for sure. Manageable. I like that. I've been talking a lot about what it brought to me, but is there anything on this second reading that spoke to you on this?
Well, the same thing is that the people who come and go, there are some, one friend that I lost that ripped my heart out. It hurt a lot. But the Lord showed me the wisdom. And actually, I had a preacher friend on mine at Facebook that came into my life right at the moment that person was leaving, and revealed the wisdom, like prophesied to me what the wisdom of that was, and it made it easier. The Lord has done amazing things when I am perplexed, because I pray about it. I got to honestly say, it's because I cry, I pray, I plead with him, like, what is happening? What is happening? Why am I losing this person? What do I need to do? What are you trying to show me? And then this person shows up and was like, do you have people in your life that are not walking with the Lord, that are doing this, that, the other? And I was like, yes, I do. And it brought me total peace to understand why that person was taken away. I even had, oh my God, wait, can I tell one story?
Yes, of course.
I had a personal trainer that I guess I overlooked. It was during COVID. It was so hard to get people to train, and the gym had closed, and he was coming to my house, and he had a full workout that we could do at home. And it was great. I was really enjoying it. And so then when this preacher person walks in, it's like, hey, what kind of energy do you have around you? What is this? And when I thought about people that weren't believers, I read some scripture also about people that are idol worshipers, and that spend more time with evil than with good. And so then later, the next time the trainer comes over, I was like, I suddenly noticed the tattoo that was literally a demonic figure Now,
Mm.
mind you, I know a lot of people get tattoos before Christ. They don't cover them up. They're expensive, blah, blah, blah. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, is that a demon? And he's like, and he knows how Christian I am. And he's like, yeah, it is. And I was like, he's like, I love demons. And I looked at him and I was like, did you just tell me you love demons? And he was like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was the last time I ever let him in my house.
Wow.
You know, it was like he looked like he looked me in the eye and I said, did you just tell me you love demons? And he's like, yes, I did, as if to challenge me. You know what I mean? Like, because he knew why I asked that question. He didn't want to excuse it away. He didn't want to deny it. It was like his demon was looking at the Christ in me being like, yeah, so what are you going to do about it? And I was like, get out.
Wow.
Like, that was it.
Out.
Out. It was like, out. So, yeah.
It was like one of Satan's minions kind of just visited your house to see what your response would be.
Yeah, and I was letting him in my house twice a week, you know? And it was just like, and it was like, and the Lord was letting me do it until he looked at me and he's like, yeah, so what are you going to do about it? And I was like, get out. We're done. Like,
Wow.
I got enough nonsense in my life. I don't need to be inviting demons into my home. So again, I'm going back to our viewers saying, ask the Lord why people come and why people go.
Mm. I like that. You've never told me that story.
No.
We got lots of stories that we're going to be busy the rest of our lives telling stories. Robert Block says men are not as committed to lasting relationships as women are. With men out of sight, out of mind is more natural. Yeah.
True.
We're just talking about high school people. Remember I was telling you this? This is Warren Waterworth. I think he graduated a year before me. I was friends with his sister, Caroline, because I dated one of her best friends at the time. He was a cheerleader. They're all cheerleaders, but Warren is from high school. And I was telling you just before we went on camera that what is funny is that since we've been doing the devotional, that I've been seeing some of my old high school, not necessarily friends. I wouldn't say Warren and I hung out together, but we did hang around the same circles. And there's an example.
and look at his little icons that he gave.
Yes.
So the Lord's attracting people that will. Nice to meet you, Warren. But
Yeah.
the Lord's attracting people that are like-minded. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the guy cleaning my pool, he graduated 4 years before me and from the same high school that we got reconnected through another high school friend. So it is what we were talking about off camera was that it's really odd that the people that I was most friendly with, that I saw and heard from on a regular basis, were people that were Christians, that we went to the same church. I changed churches because it was, Calvary Chapel was the only one that opened up and didn't stay closed like the other churches. All the way back in May, then suddenly I stopped hearing from these people from the other church, as if I'd left the family. I'm still a Christian. I'm still in the family.
You left their family. Same thing happened to me. Same thing happened to me. Not only did they leave, one of them doesn't even let their daughter hang out with mine anymore. So I was just like, okay, there we have it.
But oddly enough, since that's been happening, more of the old high school folks that I'm pretty sure that many of us were not that religious, not religious, because religious is not good either. But we weren't following, Jesus Christ back then. We were probably most of us are going to St. Paul the Cross in La Mirada, which was the Catholic church. Many of my friends went there. Yeah. So anyway, it's just kind of interesting how things are developing as we move forward, not only with the devotional, but with our lives.
I love that.
I talked about on a post yesterday, a video that I was putting together and looking at some videos and some pictures and stuff that I was putting there. And I was just thinking, man, it's so different doing life in a relationship with your best friend, as opposed to having a best friend and then being married. You see what I'm saying? Like you had the best friend, and I was married with this woman that you have sex with and that you raise kids together. Right. That didn't work, obviously. So it is much better having both, right? Your best friend and the woman that you love being the same thing. It was pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Did you like that video? I haven't even talked to you about that video.
I love the video. It was so sweet. Zara was like, "Oh my God, this is so nauseating." And I was like, "Oh, that's such a good sign, because if you're nauseated, that means it's awesome." So I loved it. Well, and I mean, I'd like to shout out to my dear friend at church, Jolene, who, when she was giving me dating advice, was like, "Hedia, opposites attract only in magnets. That is not a biblical relationship." She's like, "A biblical relationship, you should be best friends. Lions belong with lions, not lions with lambs. Lions eat lambs." Like, I never forget that. Lions eat lambs. And she was telling me that in particular because I'm a lion. And so she's like, "Don't date lambs. You will eat them." You know what I mean? She's like, you will devour them. You need somebody who's stronger than you so that you know your place in a biblical relationship. And it was literally the best advice I've ever heard. Absolutely priceless.
Somebody with command presence.
Somebody with command presence.
That knows how to control it, though.
And it's so funny because her husband is one of the few people that literally like can scare the daylights out of me just saying like, what do you think of that? And I was just like, oh, and I was like, until I met you, he's the only other person that did that to me.
Oh, all right. Let's change directions here. I want to bring up your article in the Christian Post. Wokeism is far more dangerous than secularism, and with your beautiful picture there, this is going to be, I think, another awesome article for you in regard to getting notice and people, waking up to the truth. And again, what I love about your articles, and not just because I love you, and this is, I know I could be biased in this issue, is that some people like to do things, write things, have a broadcast about something or a story about something just to shake people up. Like just that, for that reason only. They may not even necessarily believe in what they're saying. They just want to get a rise out of people. Where your articles are just simply, you're bringing out the truth to Christians. It's much like Jack Hibbs and Mark Driscoll. They're both pastors that are willing to speak the truth. And through that, they're shaking people up. They're not really trying to shake people up necessarily. I know Jack has said, "Hey, we need to thin out the crowd here at the church because there's too many people." but he's not doing it just for that reason. He's doing it because he knows that people need to hear the truth. And that's what I like about this particular article. Do you want to give them a little bit of a preview, or do you have anything you want to comment about it?
Well, I mean, I know I said I wasn't going to read the comments, but I read some of them, and they're like, "Here she is, that whitewash Asian woman." And I was like, the Trumper. And I was like, oh, it's so funny that the liberal, tolerant, open-minded people are the first to hit you with a slur. They insult you, they undermine you, they demean you. I mean, whitewashed Asian. I'm not Asian. I was like, I'm like, I don't even understand where the criticisms come from. But it's basically saying that as Christians, we can't follow this philosophy because it's anti-God. It's basically trying to destroy the Christian values of our country. Mm-hmm. So it's not something we can subscribe to.
Yeah, the churches can't be, and the pastors can't be like Coca-Cola and Delta, where they hear a little criticism, and it's so funny because it's from a very small minority of people, but they panic, right? And they go, "Oh, we got to follow what they're saying because we don't want them to stop drinking Coke." But they don't realize that half the country thinks they're idiots for doing this. But a pastor in a church, their job is not necessarily to fill their churches.
No,
their job is to speak the truth of God. And to bring biblical teaching, regardless of what happens to the seats, if they're filled or not. If there's two people in their mega church, they're not to change the way that they speak of God. Is that right?
Exactly. And I love what Pastor Mark was pointing out, which was a side point to his point about going to all those empty churches and them being like, "Well, we don't believe the gospel." And the amazing thing was they were all empty churches. There was 4 little old ladies left, or like 5 old.
Yes.
They were empty churches that were calling him, and they were empty churches that didn't believe in the resurrection and the crucifixion. So do the math. I mean, look at, Pastor Mark's church has grown 300%. Pastor Jack's is busting at the seams. So even in terms of popularity, the truth is the truth, and the Lord will send people. But a lot of our churches are just not willing to subscribe to that. And maybe because they're not real churches. I mean, Second Peter talks repeatedly about false teachers and the false church and the falling away and what happens before the end times. So this is actually quite predictable.
Yep. All right. Let me play for you what Jack said last night that I think you need to hear. All right. Here we go. Let me bring it up.
Relationship. You know what that is? Hey, you know what? If you do this for me, I'll do this for you. And if I do this for you, will you do this for me? That's sick. That is really a sick human. So what I want to do is I want to obey him, right? I want to obey him no matter who approves. I want to obey him no matter who says what. Why? Because at the end of the day, none of those, oh, please get this. I thank God for what I'm about to say because I didn't buy it. I didn't download it. I didn't find it in a book. I mean, the Bible. But I thank God that he has put it in my heart very, very strong that I don't care about one person's approval in this world. Listen, you and I have lived long enough to know that you can never please people. Second thing is, listen, if you do what he says, you will never have to worry about the judgment of other people. It's irrelevant. It's so liberating. I think this, and you know what, you and that, and I tell you what I think. Oh, it's so fun to live what he wants, right? To just live Lord, what do you want? I want the approval of one today. Just one, just you. What you say it, whatever you want. And all of a sudden, everyone else goes silent. They're blogging and talking, and I just can't hear them. It's so fun. It really is.
Whether that fits perfectly.
I know.
That's exactly what Oswald is saying. It doesn't matter what people say. Look at the face of God. And if you look at the face of God, you will shine in a blinding light, So it's such a great example. Pastor Jack's so awesome.
Yeah. And I knew as soon as he said that, I go, oh my gosh. And that's when I texted you last night and said, you got to listen. But you fell asleep on me.
But see God's perfect timing. It was great to hear it for the first time now.
So listen what he has to say. I'm speaking to you, Hedia, and it's so good. I got a little teary eyed just thinking about his words, and so amazing. All right, Paul just joined us. A little while ago. Got here. Had a cardiologist appointment. All is well. Nice.
Glad to hear that, Paul.
Very good. I have not forgotten about our show. I'm telling you, Paul, it has been a little wacky around this place, but we're going to get together. We have a couple things that are going on, but we will get together. I want to hear a little bit more about what you went through with your surgery. I know I'm doing one-on-one talk here in front of everybody, but Paul had a recent surgery that, had some highs and lows in regard to prostate cancer. I have prostate cancer, so we have a similarity here. And I do a little bit of a show talking about my journey. And so we're continuing it. It's just a lot of things are happening. And so we need to get those in line before we do our interview. Anything else, Hedia? I went off a whole another track there for a second. But good to hear that he's doing well.
I'm glad he's doing well. Just another example. The Lord takes people, the Lord brings people to help us in our walk, to enrich us, to speak life into us. And it's just beautiful. We just keep our eyes on Jesus and it all works out.
And I love the men that are on show. Normally, it's mostly women. We got Amy, who's keeping true, but we got Robert, and we got Warren and Paul, and who not sure who else is watching. We have more than that watching right now. But make sure and comment and let us know you're watching. But it's great to see the number of men that are on, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
I like that. All right. Anything else before we sign off?
I think that's all I got.
When am I going to see you?
That's what I wanted to talk about with you off camera.
Oh.
I think we can share that amongst ourselves.
You sure?
Yeah.
I like how you gave me the finger there. All right, my friends. We love you guys. Thank you for watching. And have a great, what's today? Thursday. Have a great Thursday.
Amen.
There's no, Wednesday's hump day. Mondays are, most people don't like Mondays. Thursday is just another one of a day.
Yeah, but I adore Thursdays because it gets closer to Fridays when I usually get to see you. So
listen to that. I like Thursdays because it's the day that I take out the trash cans.
Oh, yeah, that too.
All right, my friends. We love you guys.
We love you. God bless you.
All right, take care. Bye.